Hey everybody, welcome into Stacking the Box. I am Matt Verderam. He is Ian McMillan, and it is Wildcard Weekend, which means a few things. Playoffs have started. We have eliminated 18 teams that nobody wants to watch anymore. We still have a few more that we are stuck watching, but we won't have to watch after this weekend. And it means that the weather continues to be cold, and I am ready for it to get warmer, but it won't for 2 more months here. Ian, how are you doing here on this fine Thursday before Wildcard Weekend?
Yeah, I'm doing well. You kind of mentioned it there. I mean, the last 2 weeks of football hasn't been the most exciting couple of weeks, so I'm ready for some postseason, some playoff football. Even though there are a couple not so great teams here, a couple not so great quarterbacks, that's okay. At least it's meaningful football here for every team involved.
Yeah, that's true. At least it does matter, right? I mean, at
Yes.
least everybody's excited about that. Do you feel this is a good weekend of matchups, or do you feel like it's underwhelming? Where do you come down? Because I've seen both sides of that discussed throughout the course of the week.
I think it definitely could be better, but I don't think it's that bad. Actually, I think some of the games that, especially if you look at the point spreads, are pretty wide. I think a couple of them might be a little bit closer. I think it's going to be a surprisingly good weekend, or at least fun weekend of football. I think it might take some people by surprise, but on paper, it's definitely not the most, especially when you look at the quarterbacks, the most exciting matchups in the world. Also, I'm just not a big fan. I know there's obviously no way to get around it, but I'm just not a huge fan of divisional teams playing in the playoffs because I feel like we've already seen them play twice, and now we have to see them a third time. And there's, 3 divisional matchups going on in the wild card round. But I think it is, when it's all said and done, I think it's going to be an exciting weekend of football.
I hope you're right. I'm kind of underwhelmed by the matchups. I feel like the divisional round is going to be incredible. But
Yes.
that's also my favorite weekend of football every year. I love the divisional round. There are 3 games this week that you will not find anybody taking the underdog. Ravens and Bengals, Dolphins and Bills, Seahawks and 49ers. Of those 3 games, straight up, who do you give the best shot to win the game?
This is going to sound like a hot take, and I bet very few people are going to agree with me on this one. But I think the Miami Dolphins might challenge the Bills a little bit more than a lot of people think. Now, this might be stupid. This is the biggest spread of the week. The Bills might blow them out. Obviously, I know Tua is not playing for the Dolphins. That's going to make a massive difference. But the Bills have shown some red flags down the stretch that I don't think enough people are talking about. First of all, Josh Allen needs to stop turning the ball over. It's going to be hard to blow a team in the playoffs if you throw a couple interceptions. That might give the other team points. That might take away points from your own team. Their defense, I feel like there are some question marks. And the Dolphins' defense has been actually playing extremely well. There's a stat I look at, net yards per play, all the time. It's my favorite stat to look at least when I start evaluating some of these teams. And it's the 4 obvious teams that lead the net yards per play standings in the NFL heading in the playoffs. It's the Bills, the Chiefs, the Eagles, and the 49ers. The 5th place team in that stat is the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, Tua played for a lot of those games. That contributes to that. But still, I think the Dolphins could give them a challenge. They've already beat the Bills once. They played them very close in Buffalo just a few weeks ago. Obviously, Tua was in that game, but they might not win. But I think the Dolphins are going to give the Bills a scare at least.
Okay. I will say Baltimore. Because I believe in the coach. I believe in their defensive talent. And if there's any game I could see that it just turns into a rock fight, it's that game. Like, when you are a team that just wants to play a high-flying game, which is what Cincinnati wants to do, I think a lot of times the most dangerous opponent is not another team that's a high-flying team because you typically can outscore them if you're really good, which Cincinnati is. I think it's a team that can drag you into the mud and make you play a game you don't want to play. And Baltimore has a capability of doing that, of just turning that game into, hey, we're going to run the ball on first down, run the ball on second down, convert on third and short. We're just going to need to move the ball in increments of 3, 4, 5 yards a shot. Now, that's hard to do. It's hard to win like that because eventually you take a penalty, end up third and long, whatever. And that's why, I think Cincinnati's favored for a reason and a big favorite for a reason. But if there's a game of the 3 that I look at and go, I could see that being 17-16 in the fourth quarter. It's that game. And I'd be scared to death if I'm Cincinnati if that's the case because of Tucker. I mean, if they get any kind of a chance to win that game late, I don't care if it's a 60-yard field goal, he's hitting it. But I'm fascinated by the Dolphins. If Skylar Thompson goes into Buffalo and wins that game, that's an all-timer. I mean, in fact, I actually sat down, article's coming out tomorrow, and I started listing out the games in NFL history since 1970, since the merger. The biggest quarterback upsets of all time. Like, what is the most ridiculous quarterback matchup to go the other way? There are some crazy ones. And I laid down a couple ground rules for the piece, and I'm not going to give away all the ones I came up with. But, like, I had two rules. The winning quarterback, who in this case is the worst of the two, had to be the underdog in the game. Can't be a guy who's on a great team and, like, just was carried by a team. Like, you had to be the underdog in the game. And secondly, the quarterback who lost this matchup has to either be in the Hall of Fame or is clearly going to be in the Hall of Fame. Think Roethlisberger, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. Well, Manning's not one, but think Roethlisberger and Brady.
Is this playoffs only, or is this count
regular playoffs season? Only?
Okay, playoffs only.
Yes. So I ended up ranking the top 12 because I came up with 12 that I was like, okay, that's pretty good. Like, that's. You'd be. I'll give one as an example. Like, Blake Bortles going into Pittsburgh and beating Roethlisberger, 45-42. Like, Blake Bortles was awful and won that game. So there are examples of it, of guys who have gone it and, like, like, that guy is no shot. The other guy's great, and, like, they lose. Not a ton of them, but there's probably about 16 to 20, depending on your criteria, over the last 50 years.
Tim Tebow?
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's on the list.
Yeah, that's the one that jumps out to mind for me immediately.
Oh, yeah, he made it. He made the list. All right, let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Let's digest it. The Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers. They're the first game of the weekend, 4:30 Eastern on Fox. And the Niners, of course, at home, the 2-seed Seattle getting in via the Green Bay loss on Sunday Night Football. Seattle is getting 9.5 points. The Niners are 9.5-point favorite. Total is 42. How do you feel about this? Obviously, we just kind of talked about the things we think might happen with some of these underdogs. We didn't touch on this game. Do you think the Niners cover that big line?
I think they do. I have no faith in the Seahawks here. Talk about a team that just absolutely limped into the playoffs, had to go to overtime to beat the Rams in Week 18, and then still needed the Lions to beat the Packers just to get in. Something happened in Germany. When they went to Germany to play against the Buccaneers, they just look like a completely different team since that game. The entire second half of the season, the Seahawks just weren't good. They got completely outplayed by the 49ers in both meetings against them this season. I guess the big question for this game is obviously whether or not Brock Purdy is finally going to show some regression, and maybe the moment's a little bit too big for him. Is Brock Purdy a good quarterback? Is Mr. Irrelevant actually good?
I think he's a guy. I think he's
a guy.
Which, by the way, if that's what you get out of seventh round quarterback, that's great.
Right.
But like, I don't watch Brock Purdy and think to myself, like, oh my God, like they found something with this guy. Like, I find Brock Purdy's the kind of guy who, if things are going well and you have a really good team, which they do around him, fine. My question with the Niners is going to be this. If they get down 10-0 in one of these games, what happens?
Right.
Like, then what? It's a hell of a lot easier playing quarterback when you're up 10, 14, 17, and you can just play action and run the ball and the whole book's opening. What happens when it's 10-0 if you're up in Philly? Then what? Like, that's my question for the 49ers. I don't know that we're going to have the answer to that question this week with Seattle.
Yeah. No, I just have no faith in Seattle. Geno Smith kind of looked like the old Geno Smith the last couple of weeks of the season, too. Throwing some bad interceptions. This defense is too good. I don't think the offense needs to do a whole lot. Just rely on Christian McCaffrey. give Christian McCaffrey the ball in as many ways as possible and let your defense do the rest. I think that's the simple recipe to win and cover this game for the 49ers.
I don't. To the Niners, like, look, the only way I think the Niners struggle in this game, I know it's going to pour on Saturday out there if they turn the ball over. If it just becomes one of these things where, Seattle's +2, +3 in the takeaway, maybe they turn over deep in their own end a few times. I mean, look, that's true of any game. I mean, that's true of any game. But I think that to me is really the only way I see this happening. Like, I don't see a scenario where Seattle goes in there and just flat out outplays San Francisco. Like they just take it to them. I would be shocked if the Seahawks can block up front and give Smith time. I could see them covering, but they weren't able to do that in previous matchups. So I have a hard time thinking all of a sudden, now it's going to work out. There's no reason to feel that way. I'll take the under though. By the way, the weather's going to be awful. So I can see this game being like 23-13, something like that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'm terrible at picking totals. I'm sticking with spreads all weekend. But if I were to go a side on total, I'll go under.
All right, let's get into the first AFC game of the weekend, which I think I got to tell you, I think it's the best of the bunch.
Yes,
I really do. I think it's the most interesting game. I think it's the most fun game, which if you told me before the year that would include the Jacksonville Jaguars, I would have had questions about what happened in the NFL this year. But look, let's set the scene. So Jacksonville is a 2.5-point dog at home. I'm going to tell you right now, I do not agree with that line at all. I don't. That's number one. Number two, the Chargers, I'm trying to think of a way I can professionally put this. I'm not sure if there is one, so I'll just the hell with it. The Chargers did one of the most dumbass things I've ever seen in my life in Week 18. I genuinely. You're on a 4-game winning streak. The game means nothing by kick because Baltimore lost. You are locked into the 5. You can't go up. You can't go down. You decide, as Brendan Staley, with a team made of a bunch of guys who are made of glass, what would be a great idea? Let's play them all. Let's play them all in a game that means jack to us. And the Chargers went out and immediately got Mike Williams injured. And then proceeded to lose the game and give up 30-plus to the Broncos, who can't score a point. You couldn't draw up a worse way to go into the playoffs. Could not. You lose to an awful team. You lose your number 2-ish, 1A, 1B receiver. You now have to go on a short week because Jacksonville played Saturday. You have to go all the way across the country to go play Jacksonville, who's won 5 in a row and couldn't be any happier with itself. I don't get why the Chargers are 2.5 points favored in this game. They're a little more talented. They're horribly coached. That's where I fall on this whole thing.
Yeah, I could have saw them maybe. I mean, maybe there's an argument to be made, play your guys for a quarter or a half to try to, keep them in the flow of things. But then they played their starters in the second half too. It didn't make any sense. But I'm with you on this one. I'm on the Jaguars, but it does make me a little bit concerned. I haven't seen a single person taking the Chargers, but yet
I've seen many. If it makes you feel better, I've many.
Interesting. I agree with you. I don't agree with the line whatsoever. I actually don't think the Chargers are actually that good of a football team. I think they're the weakest team in the AFC playoffs. Maybe Dolphins with Skylar Thompson might be below them, but net yards per play, I talk about all the time. 27th in net yards per play this season, so bottom 6 in the NFL. 20th in net yards per play over their last 3 games, 26th in net yards per play on the road. This Chargers team, I actually don't think is all that good. And if you want to talk about a team that's getting hot at the right time, it's obviously the Jacksonville Jaguars, maybe showing flashes of what the Bengals look like before their deep playoff run last year, especially their defense. Their secondary has locked things down the past few weeks. One of the best secondaries in the final stretch of the NFL season, and now they get to take on a Chargers team who no other team in the AFC throws the ball more than the LA Chargers. So if their secondary stays hot, I think that's going to play a big role here. Jaguars already beat them 38-10, given that was extremely early in the season. What was that, like week 2 or week 3? But still, I think the Jaguars are the play. And obviously you mentioned the coaching advantage here. Doug Peterson just won a Super Bowl, 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Now he's going up against Brandon Staley, who I don't think anyone has faith in that guy in the playoffs. So, yeah, I'll take the Jaguars.
God, no. By the way, before I get to my 2 cents in this, and we'll move on to the Sunday games. I know we're running a little behind schedule here. It's a half-hour show. Quickly, this is important. Everybody needs to pay attention. BetMGM is running the promo for Arrowhead Addict viewers. I know we're doing this on Stack in the Box, but it's simulcasting on AA as well. If you bet $10 on any wildcard team, any team, doesn't matter who it is, you win $200 as long as one touchdown is scored and you use the code Arrowhead. You got to go to BetMGM and sign up, and you got to use the promo code Arrowhead. Listen, got to do this, got to read the disclaimer, okay? New customers only, 21 and up, present in select states. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable free bets or site credits. Free bets expire in 7 days from issuance. See full terms at betmgm.com. You have a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER in Illinois, Indiana, Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, or Wyoming. 1-800-522-4700 in Colorado and Kansas. 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. 1-800-NEXT-STEP, Arizona. 888-789-7777 in Connecticut. 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Call or text in Tennessee, a red line, or call 1-800-889-9789. And then in Virginia, it's 1-888-532-3500. And again, just remember, the promo code is Arrowhead. So you got to put that promo code in there when you sign up. Otherwise, this does not work out for you. And this would be huge for us. Look, we get a benefit from everybody who signs up, and we continue to get these promos. So tossing that out there, BetMGM, go for it, go nuts. Arrowhead, make some money this weekend. All right, keep it rolling. I'm taking Jacksonville to cover. I think Jacksonville's flat going to win the game. I don't trust Staley at all, in any way, shape, or form. Joe Lombardi is going to do something in this game that absolutely screws them. It's a 3rd and 8 swing pass to Austin Eckler. I have no faith. Defensively, everybody keeps talking about how much better the Chargers have been. The Chargers just gave up 500 yards to Denver, and in the month prior to that we're playing just one BS offense after the next. The Colts, the Rams, the Titans. I hope you can stop those offenses. They stink. Well, Jacksonville has an offense. I think Jacksonville wins. I think Jacksonville, quite frankly, is probably a slightly better team. I think the Chargers are more talented. Doesn't make for a better team. Moving to Sunday, early game of the triple header, Dolphins, Bills. I'll go first here. The Bills are going to kill the Dolphins. That is my 2 cents. Skylar Thompson, he ain't winning this game. To me, that lineman, and I mean this, Ian, could be 21 points. I'd pick the Bills. This game to me is like 38-9. I mean, I can't. If the Dolphins had a defense, you could talk to me about the spread. They have no defense. They're going to get lit up like a Christmas tree.
I disagree. I think it's gonna be the surprise game of the week. I think the Dolphins might actually challenge them a little bit. You mentioned the Dolphins defense. If you look at now, this doesn't tell the full story, but opponent yards per play over their last 3 games, the Dolphins are tied with the Jaguars, 4.2, the fewest yards per play over their last 3 games. Their defense lately, without Tua, has stepped up. And the Bills, like I said, they do have some question marks. Josh Allen turns the ball over a lot. Not enough people are talking about that. A couple of bad turnovers in a playoff game, and that could be it, at least, to keep the game close. Now, I took the Dolphins when I was at plus 10.5 because I thought Tua was going to play. I don't know why I thought that. And it did go down to 9.5, but then when he was declared out, it went all the way up to 13.5. The current line of 13.5 or 13, depending on where you look, I think is a complete overreaction. I would take the Dolphins at the current line. I'm not as confident, obviously, in my 10.5. But yeah, I think 13 is a complete overreaction.
All right, awesome. We couldn't be more just in 2 opposite directions here. Miami it's going to just get boat raced in this game. I honestly, just because I want to see an entertaining game, I hope you're right. God, if this game turns into where Skylar Thompson has to throw the ball, it's bad news.
That's going to be bad.
it's bad news.
What's the weather supposed to be like in Buffalo that day? Do you know?
That's a good question. The weather in Buffalo.
I did not.
You know what? This is why we're here. We bring information to the people, or just bad information with our takes. The weather in Buffalo on Sunday morning is 30 and sunny with no wind. So in Buffalo, that's like time to break out the beach chairs. All right. Let's get to the middle game of the Sunday slate. I will tell you right now, I think the Jags and the Chargers is the most intriguing to me. This game could be the most hilarious. Any possible thing Giants-Vikings related could happen. If you said to me the Giants win by 30, 100% could see it. If you said to me the Vikings score 45 points and win, I could see that too. If you said the Vikings drive down and miss an 18-yard field goal to lose the game with the gun, absolutely in play. All of it could happen. The Vikings are favored by 3, which is the traditional line. It's fine by me. I think the line's fair. These teams played a month ago, and the Vikings won on a 61-yard field goal at the gun. However, the Giants outplayed them in every conceivable metric except they turned the ball over twice. Do you like the Giants here, A, to cover, and if you do, B, do you like them to pull the upset?
I think they can. I'll take the 3 points. I'm not bold enough to take money line in this game. I think it's going to be another one that comes down to the wire, and if that's the case, then I'll gladly take the team getting a field goal worth of points. But you mentioned in that game a few weeks ago, I think, was that Christmas Eve? I think it was. The Giants outplayed them 6.7 yards per play to 5.0 yards per play. Those 2 turnovers kind of ended up killing them at the end of the game, but if there's 2 teams that I've been calling, well, they are the 2 teams I've been calling fraudulent all season. I don't think neither of them are as good as the record indicates, and now they have to play against each other. So good news is one of them is going to be eliminated. Bad news is we're going to have to watch the other one play next week. I don't like either of these teams. I don't think either of them have a shot to go on a deep playoff run. I'll take the team that's getting 3 points and just hope for a close game, I guess.
Fair enough. I would take the points. I think the Giants are going to win, but I'm not like ultra confident in that. The Vikings just scare me to my core, man. Every time you're like, hey, the Vikings have a shot to do something. And it's just, look, there is going to be a game. I'd bet my mortgage on, okay? There is going to be a game this weekend where we come back from commercial break, and it's like that start of the fourth quarter break, and there's a shot of the crowd, and the crowd looks like it's watching the Hindenburg go down. Like there's just a mixture of confusion, fear, and panic. One of these stadiums is going to have that look. And I will tell you right now, it won't be in Tampa because it's Tampa. They don't even care enough anyway. And half those fans are going to be from Dallas. It's not going to be Jacksonville because look, there were no expectations. This is all gravy at this point. It's going to be one of the other 4. You get one of those games, you're going to have a look of oh my God, what is happening? And look, I hate to say it because I feel bad for both fan bases. Buffalo and Minnesota are the leaders in the clubhouse. Buffalo should beat the Dolphins by 40 points. If they don't do it, and that game's close in the fourth quarter, the fear is going to be unbelievable. If the Vikings are involved in a close game, which they seemingly always are, the fear will also be, look, every Vikings fan in the world is going to be sitting there going, oh God, how are they going to screw us? And if Cincinnati's the other one, they've never won a Super Bowl, there's big expectations, and losing to Baltimore would be the ultimate twist the knife moment. I look forward to seeing it in one of these stadiums where there's just mass internal strife and panic, just staring out at the field, knowing, oh God, this could be the worst night of my life. I don't know. The bad person in me enjoys that.
The Bills and the Vikings are 2 of the most cursed franchises in the NFL.
Yes.
Too, so I wouldn't be shocked if it happens to at least one of them.
All right, let's go to the last game of Sunday. Sunday night, I just mentioned it, the Bengals and the Ravens. Last I checked, Bengals are laying 9.5. Apparently up to 10 now as the line just climbs and climbs and climbs. Tyler Huntley was at practice today. He was throwing. So it looks like he's going to start, which is obviously better than Anthony Brown, but it's not as good as Lamar Jackson. I'll kick us off here. Look, I like Baltimore to cover this. I'm not picking them to win. Don't get it twisted. I think the Bengals will win the game. But it's a divisional game. The Bengals have had a hard time with the Ravens this year when they've been on offense, when the Bengals have been on offense. I think the Ravens can make this an ugly game. a weird game. The totals, and by the way, I think Vegas does too because the total's 40.5. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really low total involving Joe Burrow. So I think it's one of these games where you get to like the middle of the third, early fourth, and you're like, I have no idea how this is still a competitive football game, but it is. Like, they're going to flash the graphic that Huntley's thrown for like 58 yards, but somehow it's 19-13 because they've rushed for 220. Like, that is, I think it's that kind of a game. So give me Baltimore to cover. Give me the Bengals to win in a game that I think will be more competitive than people expect.
Yeah, so what I did with this game is I actually bet on it early in the week. I got Bengals -6.5 because I did not expect Lamar Jackson to play whatsoever, and that gamble paid off. So I like the Bengals at the line I got it at. Now, what's it at? 8.5, 9? What's it up to? It's up to 10. I actually now think the play at the current number, the play is actually Baltimore. I have actually a lot of concerns about the Bengals. I am on them this week at the -6.5 number, but I don't think, like, when I look at their stats, and I'm kind of married to the numbers here, nothing jumps off the page to me. If you look at yards per play, opponent yards per play, red zone efficiency, really anything you want to look at, they're around middle of the pack in the NFL. They're not as high as you would expect for a team who's 5th on the odds list to win the Super Bowl, a team that went to the Super Bowl last year. So I do have some concerns about Cincinnati. Their defense has been average. Their offense, despite getting the job done, hasn't actually done a great job, in my opinion. So with it all the way up, I didn't see that move to 10. I think last time I saw it was 9. So with it all the way up to 10, I think things flip because, like you said, I think Baltimore, especially defensively and how they run the ball on offense, can turn this into an ugly, a slugfest of a game. And it's hard to cover a 10-point spread in the NFL. So I think Baltimore can turn this ugly. And I still think the Bengals win, but 10 points is too much for me with the current line.
Yeah, agreed. All right, Monday Night Football, last game. It's so weird saying Monday Night Football about a playoff game. Just a travesty. Cowboys at Bucks. Probably going to sound like a Cowboys home game, I would think. The Cowboys are laying 2.5 points against the 45-year-old, seemingly ageless Tom Brady. The line, okay, 2.5. I'm okay with that. 45.5 total, I think, is a little bit high, but okay, I'd probably take the under. Do you think the Bucks beat the Cowboys to bookend their season? They beat them week 1. They're going to play them again. You're shaking your head. You're rolling with Jerry's crew.
I'm going with the Cowboys. I've been betting against the Buccaneers all season, and no team has won me more money by betting against them. I think they're the worst spread record, and the reason why is because week in and week out, we hear everyone saying, oh, the Buccaneers are going to get hot out. This is Tom Brady. You can't bet against Tom Brady in this spot. Right. I have been, and I've been winning bets because this team is not good. I know they beat a couple of bad teams late in the season to win the NFC South, a joke of a division, at 8-9. But, like, listen to some of these offensive numbers here. Yards per play, 25th. Third down conversion rate, 21st. Red zone offense, 22nd. Yards per carry, 32nd. They're the worst rushing team in the NFL. They're not good. Yards per pass at 30. This is a bad football team. And I know the Cowboys didn't look their best down the stretch. That does concern me a little bit, especially defensively. They went from an elite defense to really an average defense at best late in the season. But I still think the Cowboys are too talented to not win this game. I don't care that it's Tom Brady. I don't care that it's the Buccaneers. I don't care that they won a couple games to close out the year and win a terrible division. I think the Cowboys win this game handedly.
Picking Tampa.
Oh! Come on!
Everything you said is right. Every single thing you said is right. And I will admit, this is the kind of game that I know midway through the second quarter, I'm like, son of a bitch. Why? What? It's a gut thing. It's a total gut thing. It's not
Brady.
It's partially Brady. It's partially Dallas. If there's any team that'll take 12 penalties and throw 2 dumbass picks and drop a third down pass, like I mentioned the crowd shot earlier. McCarthy is like minus, like, what would he be? I'm trying to think. Like, he'd be like minus 700 as the coach, who they're going to show on the sideline, who has that look. Like, he like, oh, dear God, I forgot to wear underwear, and I have to go to the bathroom badly. Like,
an open mouth, just a gape.
Yeah, just absolutely Like you can almost see in his mind, like, oh God, it's going to happen again, isn't it? Like, if there's one coach they're going to show this weekend who has that look, he is, I would take him over the field for this. Like, so now I will say this. Also at minus 700 is the look where Todd Bowles looks like he's trying to figure out if the game is started or not when midway through the third quarter. Like, there's that kind of like pensive but confused look. Kind of like when you go out to a parking lot and you can't figure out where your car is. You're like, is it an A7 or C7? And like you just have that, like, you're like staring off into space. I'm taking Dallas because I feel like Dallas is going to do just enough wrong to leave this to like Dallas is up 6 with 2.5 to go. And here comes Brady. And you just know how that ends. Like, Brady hits Cade Otton for a touchdown in the corner. And they would. I am taking Tampa against my better judgment. It's a gut. It's not based in statistics. Although I will say Dak leading the league in picks despite missing like a third of the season. That's borderline terrifying.
It's not good.
He has been awful down the stretch, but they're a much better team than Tampa. But I'm still taking the Bucs. One interesting thing, there have been the Bucs are the 4th team now. There have been 3 teams that have gone to the playoffs as a losing record participant. The Seahawks beat the Saints as a 7-9 divisional winner. The Panthers beat the Cardinals as a 7-8-1 division winner. Now, granted, it should be noted that the Cardinals were trotting out Ryan Lindley at quarterback in that game. And Washington played Tampa when the Bucs won the Super Bowl a couple years ago.
They covered.
And Washington lost, but like actually played them really well in the game.
Yeah, Taylor Heineke.
Those teams have like a weird history of like actually playing well. So that's where we're at. All right, final thoughts here as we sign off before I got another podcast on Arrowhead Addict in 90 minutes and counting.
My final thoughts are don't bet on Tom Brady because it's Tom Brady. I see the guy in the chat. The Bucs are not good either, but it's Tom Brady in the playoffs. I'll take my chances with Brady in this game. That has been the thought of bettors the entire football season, and then at the end of the year, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had the worst record against the spread. So it hasn't worked for the past 18 games. It's not going to work now. Do not fall for Tom Brady PTSD. I get it. He has dominated the NFL for 20 plus years. I get it. Put your Tom Brady PTSD aside. Do not bet on the Buccaneers this weekend.
Don't believe in the guy who's won 7 Super Bowls.
No.
Says Ian McMillan. Don't believe in that guy. But instead
believe my own team.
Instead, believe in the team that pisses down its leg every opportunity it gets in a big moment.
Yes.
All right. That is it for Stack the Box and for Arrowhead Addict. How to bet Wildcard Weekend. He is Ian McMillan. I am Matt Verderam. I'll be back in 90 minutes on the Arrowhead Addict podcast, breaking down all things AFC playoffs and Chiefs. Thank you for listening. And again, go to BetMGM.com, sign up for the promo, and use the promo code Arrowhead. You bet $10 on any team in the wild card round, and if they score a touchdown, you win $200. Not a bad deal. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for listening. Until next time, enjoy the weekend.